Hello and welcome. This is your weekly fix. I'm Smitha Nair. I'm going to begin with a brief recap of events in Pakistan over the last few months to give context to the conversation that will follow. In April this year, Imran Khan was ousted as Prime Minister following a no confidence vote. This happened because his relationship with his once patron, the Pakistan military establishment, had now soured. Since then, Imran Khan has been holding rallies to galvanize support. The people responded in a manner that seemed to take more than one observer by surprise. Crowds have thronged his meetings, in which he lashes out not just at his political opponents, the Sharifs and Zardaris, as he calls them, but also the Pakistan military and its leadership. It was in this long march to Islamabad, demanding the holding of snap elections, that Imran Khan was shot at last week. Khan and his Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf have alleged that Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif, Interior Minister Rana Sanaullah, and Major General Nasir were part of the plot to assassinate him. Now, anybody with even a nodding acquaintance of Pakistan knows that its military's hold over all aspects of the running of that country is seemingly immutable. But has Imran Khan, as pronounced by the UK's Financial Times today, become the biggest threat to this status quo in years? Will there be a consequential change in civil military relations? Let us ask a career diplomat who has had a ringside view for several years of the goings on in that country. Sharat Sabharwal is a former Indian High Commissioner to Pakistan. In fact, he's had a stint in Pakistan as Deputy High Commissioner before that as well. His book, India's Pakistan Conundrum, Managing a Complex Relationship, is essential reading for those trying to make sense of India-Pakistan relations. Thanks so much for agreeing to this conversation, sir.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank
I'm
you
going
for
to
having me on the show.
Right. So I'm going to begin by asking you a question that I haven't got a convincing answer to, despite all the reading I've done. Why exactly did the Pakistan army, on whose coattails Imran Khan rose to power, grow disenchanted with him?
Well, as you said rightly, he came to power in 2018 with active support of the army. They tilted the electoral field completely in his favor. And he didn't tire of saying every now and then that he was on the same page with the army. That was something he said ever so often. But then, as things moved, as time passed, I think differences developed. You may recall, but those of us who study Pakistan closely came across reports at some stage that the army chief wanted the Punjab chief minister Usman Buzdar to be changed. Punjab is the largest and very critical province, and Bajwa wanted a change there for some reason. Imran Khan did not agree to that. That is what those reports said. Now, Imran Khan, in an interview to Dawn newspaper 2 days ago, has confirmed that that report was correct. Then, of course, I don't think Bajwa was happy with Imran Khan's management of the economy. The expansionary policy that he followed during the course of COVID pandemic that jeopardized the IMF program. Then differences emerged over giving cooperation to the Americans in their counter-terror efforts in Afghanistan after a victory of the Taliban in August 2021. Bajwa was in favor of cooperating. Imran didn't wish to cooperate. But the real falling out came on the appointment of DGISI in 2021. And there is some background to it. In 2019, Imran Khan had brought in Lieutenant General Faiz Hamid as Director General of ISI with the approval of Bajwa at that stage. Now, he replaced Lieutenant General Asim Munir, who had been DG ISI only for 7 months. Now, the sudden change made by Imran Khan had a background to it. Faiz Hamid, as head of the counterintelligence wing of the ISI, had helped Imran Khan politically in 2017 and 18. In fact, it is he who tilted the electoral field in his favor in 2018 to ensure his victory. Of course, he did it at that time with the approval of Bajwa. But I think by 2021, Bajwa had become suspicious that Faiz Hamid was getting too close to Imran Khan, that this might jeopardize his position. And he sought a change. And Imran Khan dragged his feet for a few months. Now, that confirmed Bajwa's suspicions that he wanted to retain Faiz Hamid for some reason. Eventually, that change came, and Nadeem Anjum was appointed as DGISI late last year. But I think that was the ultimate falling out. Bajwa by then had decided that Imran Khan's continuation was not in his interest. And Bajwa had indulged in political engineering from right from the beginning of his tenure. So he did another engineering in making the smaller parties which are supporting the Imran Khan coalition. And all those smaller parties are beholden to the army. So he made them withdraw their support to Imran Khan's coalition. That government fell, and he brought in the government headed by Shahbaz Sharif. Probably his calculation was that out of office, Imran Khan, he was unpopular by them because his running of the government was not very efficient. He was unpopular. The expectation was that he would lose further popularity and probably disappear into political oblivion. That hasn't happened. The contrary has happened. In fact, he has gained much more support. He already had a lot of charisma. He's gained much more support amongst the youth, the middle class, the professionals, who see him as an alternative to the feudals who have ruled Pakistan so far. Now, therefore, now it has become a problem for Bajwa, who is on his way out, and the army, and of course, the Shahbaz Sharif government.
Right. This popularity that you talk about, sir, to a lay person, it would seem that it is perhaps because Imran Khan is doing the unthinkable. He's taking on the mighty army, and in doing so, he's drawing that massive popular support. Um, and in taking on the army and by extension the deep state, uh, is it correct to characterize it as something that is unprecedented? Yes, of course, there have been other civilian surrogates of the army in the past who've fallen out with the army, but have we seen anything of this nature, this sort of pushback against the establishment and the support that you have seen that pushback garner among the people?
That pushback is only one reason for increase in his popularity. It's an overall narrative which is pro-Islam, anti-American, says he was ousted by the army at the behest of the Americans because he was following an independent foreign policy. And then his narrative that the existing rulers, Shahbaz Sharif, PDM parties, they are all corrupt. That is a narrative which was promoted by the army for a long time. And that has caught the imagination of the people. So it's a combination of these factors that is causing his popularity to rise. And questioning the army is only one of them. Now, questioning the army is not completely unprecedented. For example, 1971, after the Bangladesh debacle, the army was questioned extensively. When Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was a very popular leader, he became president first, and then when constitution was adopted in 1973, he became the prime minister. Eventually, there was a coup against him in 1977. Not unprecedented. But things changed after the turn of the century. There was a fear factor. There was a position attributed to the army which was generally not questioned, except on special occasions like 1971, as I said. But after the turn of the century, it changed for two reasons. One is the information revolution. Second, increasing sign of failure of army's past policies, which was seen in the form of terror backlash in Pakistan in the first decade of this century. I went as High Commissioner in 2009. Terrorism was rife there, including in the Punjabi heartland. So all this brought the army and its policies into question. Then, of course, when Musharraf was ousted in 2008, his military rule was thoroughly discredited. That also led to increasing questioning of the army. The army nonetheless recovered its position. Now, what is happening now is something which builds upon that trend which has been there after the turn of the century. But as you rightly said, it is unprecedented. In 2020, Nawaz Sharif named openly General Bajwa and Faiz Hamid as two generals who had ousted him from power through underhand means. But he did it sitting in the security of London in exile. Imran Khan is doing it sitting within Pakistan. And that narrative is catching on. So that is unprecedented. But I don't think we should lose sight of a subtext that all this has of continued importance of the army in the Pakistani polity. Why do I say that? For two reasons. One, look, shorn of all rhetoric, what Imran Khan is asking is for the army to give him an early election. So army is somewhere there in his calculation also. Secondly, I think the tussle, apart from being on the political fortunes of the political players, is mainly about the appointment of the new army chief. Now, if the army were about to lose its importance in the Pakistani polity, there would not be so much of interest in the appointment of the new army chief. Who becomes the army chief? Both sides are keen that someone favorable to them becomes the army chief. So I don't think we should lose sight of these factors. This is an important trend from our point of view. Probably we can discuss it later in the interview. But I wouldn't say that, people would bet their money on Pakistan turning its back very quickly on its long past of army dominance. Uh, when it happens, it will not be an event, it will be a process. It is something which will come from within Pakistan, and therefore it is important that this kind of questioning is taking place. If this trend grows, this would be something good for Pakistan and for the region, because the army's policies have been responsible for much that has gone wrong in Pakistan and the trouble that it has caused for the region.
Right. In fact, Imran Khan, in that interview with Dawn that you referred to, says at the end of the interview to Atika Rahman, he says that it would be idealistic to imagine that the army will suddenly not play any part at all in the politics of this country. I want to ask you something, sir. While looking up archival material on the relationship between Pakistani civilian leaders and the army, I came across this 1979 Washington Post report on how the officer corps was divided over the decision to execute Zulfikar Ali Bhutto and the then prevailing apprehension that there would be a split in the armed forces. Of course, that didn't quite happen. I was wondering if there are any similarities at all with what's happening now. The reason I ask you is because one has been reading reports coming out of Pakistan that Imran Khan enjoys a huge popularity among the army rank and file.
Yeah, much has been said about his popularity amongst the army rank and file, and that may be true because after all, they come from the same society and the same polity, where a lot of people are supporting Imran Khan. But we haven't seen any indiscipline or anyone coming out in the open, any serving officer coming out in the open to speak against Imran Khan, except some retired officers who have done this. And look again, politicians trying to divide the generals to serve their own interest is not unprecedented. I would recall one particular juncture to you when in October 1999, Nawaz Sharif appointed General Ziauddin as Chief of Army Staff, short-lived, to replace General Musharraf. Because Musharraf staged a coup, and so therefore Ziauddin could not probably even take over, but an attempt was made. His calculation probably was that he'll be able to turn some generals against Musharraf, and then have his way. Uh, why does it not happen? I believe that the rank and file in the army, for them, the army is a citadel from which they draw their perks and privileges. And the last thing they would like to see is the citadel being breached by a politician. Now, if when the chips are down, if this is seen as happening, to my mind, they would all line up behind their chief. So whether this reported popularity of Imran Khan amongst the forces eventually translates into some open sort of revolt against an army chief who doesn't support him, that's a very remote possibility.
Right. I wanted to ask you, sir, earlier you had referred to the fact that one of the main reasons why this falling out with the Pakistan army happened is because over the appointment of the Punjab province chief minister. You, in a line or two, you also told us why it's relevant. But I wonder if you could sort of, I know many viewers, in fact, have had written in about asking what is the significance of Punjab in the scheme of things. You often see the appointment of, the person governing the province of Punjab as being such a contentious issue in that country. Why is it relevant to the politicians and to the army?
Well, Punjab is the largest province, not in terms of area. I think Balochistan is 44% of Pakistan's territory, but very sparsely populated. Only about 6% of Pakistan's population. In terms of population, in terms of its political weight, it carries almost 50% plus seats in the National Assembly. So a party which does well in Punjab is almost assured of power at the federal level. Then army, it has the largest share. Economy wise, its share in Pakistan's economy is the largest. So this is the most crucial and critical province for Pakistan. It is of interest to the politicians, as much of interest to the politicians as to the army. I think Bajwa, from what I read those days, was not happy with the performance of Usman Buzdar, the chief minister appointed by Imran Khan, and he wanted another person to be brought in. He made a push for it, but the reports then said that Imran Khan didn't agree to it. Now he confirms that this is indeed true. And if true, then it must have rankled with Bajwa, because the most important province where they have critical interest, he wants a change there, and the prime minister, who doesn't tire of saying that he's on the same page with the army, doesn't give it to him. That would have certainly annoyed him. So that set in chain a chain of movements that eventually led to that incident on the appointment of DG of ISI.
Right. Uh, as of today, sir, is there a certain sort of predictability to what will now happen, given the situation? There are, the post the attempted assassination of Imran Khan, we heard so many sort of reports. One section saying that it could have been a false flag operation. Imran Khan trying to garner more sympathy. The other saying that the army wouldn't have done such a sort of half-hearted job if indeed they wanted to bump him off, which did not happen. Many saying that now his sort of following would only grow. What do you anticipate, sir, will happen in the days and weeks ahead?
It's very difficult to predict the denouement of the ongoing crisis. Uh, there are many, many imponderables there. There are two, three possibilities I can mention. One, it is being said that no long march has earlier led to dislodging of the government of the day. That eventually, he'll go there, he'll sit on a dharna or something, spend some time there, then what? He has to go back. How long is he going to stay there? And therefore, this government stays on and the elections take place as due in October, November next year, which is what the PDM wants. They have lost popularity because they have had to take unpopular measures to revive the IMF program. And they want some more time to revive the economy, to recover some of their popularity before they go to elections. So elections take place in this scenario in October, November. A second scenario, a more likely in my view, is that eventually there is some compromise. Look, both sides, have a lot at stake. Imran Khan has a lot at stake, so he cannot accept a situation where he completely loses face. Nor can the government, nor can the army or Bajwa or whoever is the chief after him. So there is a compromise. Some kind of caretaker government is appointed to prepare for elections. In any case, under Pakistan's constitution, a caretaker government takes over about 2 months before an election takes place. So it's that government that oversees those elections. So some kind of caretaker government is set up, and election takes place in June, July. So that's a face saver for Imran Khan. It's much before October, November. It also gives some time to the PDM parties to try and recover their popularity. Third is a possibility. Imran pushes ahead as he's doing it because that march has started again yesterday, and there is bloodshed, which gives the army an opportunity to then not intervene directly, take over, etc., but then play a greater role, probably set up a caretaker government for a longish duration, saying situation is such, the things need to be put in order, etc. Back that government and then see what happens later on. These are the scenarios. As I said, the second one seems more likely. I still feel there may be a compromise, but we'll see what happens. But I must say that At the end of the day, what is happening right now is more a problem of Bajwa as a person rather than army as an institution. Although his political engineering over 6 years and this long tenure of 6 years, after all, normal tenure is 3 years, has brought him into disrepute and with him the army also. But the problem is essentially his. He carries this baggage of 6 years of tenure, long tenure, and of political engineering right through, removing Nawaz Sharif through underhand means bringing in Imran Khan, then removing him, bringing another government, etc., etc. He seeks security in his retirement. That's the very least he seeks, so that eventual political executive cannot trouble him. He wants a successor who would be sympathetic to him. He may get that. As far as the army as an institution is concerned, if you ask me, if push comes to the shove and they see no other way out, they'll let Imran Khan have his way, become prime minister again, and let him discredit himself in 3, 4 years. The chances are very high that he would discredit himself again, not only because he's not a good administrator, he hasn't proved himself to be a good administrator, but also because of the fact that because of Pakistan's internal and external orientation and this adversarial attitude towards a much bigger neighbor and whatever is happening internally, no prime minister can succeed. Who can succeed there? So the chances are he fails again and discredits himself, becomes unpopular. Then the army moves in to recover its position again. Let me recall to you that when Musharraf left power, the army was thoroughly discredited, army rule, and was being questioned increasingly. How long did it take them to recover their position? Um Kayani, who Ashfaq Pervez Kayani, who succeeded Musharraf, he took control of foreign policy and security very quickly. And then Rahil Sharif onwards, they started interfering in political affairs. And then Bajwa, as I said, was doing political engineering all the time. That's how the army as an institution may look at it. I think a little more stability and clarity may come to this situation when a new army chief is appointed. There were some doubts being expressed about Bajwa's intentions, but he has now started paying farewell calls on army garrisons. He visited two garrisons last 1 or 2 days. So that has probably brought him closer to quitting after all on November 28th, although you can never be sure till the end what happens. If that happens, the new chief is appointed, more clarity comes, and then probably the army free of that burden which Bajwa is carrying, takes its decisions, we may have a solution there.
Right. Very quickly, sir, I see a sort of complete dichotomy in how Pakistani newspapers and their sort of op-ed pages and analysts are writing about what's happening, as opposed to how Western newspapers like the Washington Post that I refer to uh, are sort of looking at the situation. Washington Post, it's not, I beg your pardon, Financial Times from the UK, they seem to sort of their analysis seem to be that this is perhaps the biggest sort of challenge to the power of the military establishment in Pakistan in years, and they see sort of change around the corner. Whereas you see the op-ed pages in Pakistan, and they all say, "Look, revolution is not coming. This is not the revolution that you think will sort of bring democracy in the manner that one was looking for." So, in your opinion, sir, you believe these some of these Western publications are perhaps overestimating what Imran Khan can do, or what he intends to do, indeed.
Uh, yes, there is a risk that you could overestimate it. As I said, this is not going to happen all of a sudden, but there is also a risk of underestimating it. I wouldn't say that this counts for nothing. This is unprecedented. This is something important that is happening even from our point of view. Look, a prime mover of Pakistan's hostility against India, in fact, the prime mover, if I may say so, is the army. Because it's in their institutional interest to sustain the India bogie, to justify their stranglehold over the Pakistani polity. Now, that being so, any trend which questions the narrative of the army, whether inside Pakistan or their external policies, etc., etc., that should be a welcome development from our point of view. Um, so As I said, we should neither overestimate it, but at the same time, we shouldn't underestimate it either. Here's
Okay.
an important trend. We should take note of it because such trends must grow within Pakistan if Pakistan is ever to become a normal state.
Right. Um, so I want to take a second to tell our viewers about your book, India's Pakistan Conundrum, Managing a Complex Relationship, in which, among other things, you detail how the Pakistan army came to occupy the space it has, that of a state within a state, and how the India bogey, as you said, or the India challenge, in a sense, remains the raison d'etre. My question, sir, is have things remained the same? And if you can please allow me to quote from your analysis of the Pakistan's first ever national security policy that was released in January this year. You wrote in the Indian Express, we need to take note of the NSP for two reasons. First, it is a sign of Pakistan's growing challenges, particularly economic, in continuing with its old policies. And second, because it reflects, albeit partially, the thinking of a sizable constituency in Pakistan that realizes the importance of a stable relationship with India in its own interests. You go on to write, going forward, these factors should present us with opportunities to improve the relationship beyond the ceasefire restoration of January 2021. In the 10 months since you wrote that in the Express, sir, have you seen any movement in this direction? And what are these recent developments? How will they sort of play out in this context?
Yeah, if you have a little time, can I explain those two points that I made there, the two points
Please.
which you mentioned?
Yes.
Now, first of all, it's quite clear that Pakistan's existing internal and external orientation is unsustainable. There's rampant religious extremism, serious ethnic fault lines, living beyond its means, and dependence on external aid, but above all, civil military imbalance. And external, your adversarial attitude towards a much bigger and much better endowed neighbor, which imposes unbearable burdens on the Pakistani economy. These are becoming more and more unsustainable. This is quite clear. Of course, the new order, the old order does not give up easily. There are entrenched interests, including the army. Now, so therefore, there is talk of shifting from geopolitics to geoeconomics, etc., that new security policy. But it cannot be implemented unless both the internal and external orientation of Pakistan changes. The second point, we don't realize it, but there is a sizable constituency in Pakistan which realizes the value of a stable relationship with India in its own selfish interest. Now, again, as I said, these trends are not strong enough so far to completely overturn the entrenched interests, whether it's of the army or other groups there. But we should not lose sight of these. We must take note of these trends because, as I said earlier, these trends must grow within Pakistan if Pakistan is to become a normal state. Now, my expectation in January was that with all this happening, mainly as a tactical move, not as a strategic shift, Pakistan may adopt a more reasonable attitude and it may build upon the ceasefire by, let's say, resuming trade or restoring the relationship to High Commissioner's level, etc. I didn't expect any big bang event or sudden development, normalization of relationship. But those kind of things to happen. Why they have not happened? This all changed with Imran Khan's ouster in April. Now it's a highly polarized polity. Even a little step that Shahbaz takes vis-a-vis India, positive step, will be described by Imran Khan as a sellout. You have seen, I can tell you that there has been tremendous pressure on the Pakistan government to resume trade from their own large segments of their own business and industry. But it hasn't happened. In between, there was a suggestion that they may import vegetables, etc. They couldn't even do that because of the factor that I mentioned earlier. So that expectation has not been realized because of this change which took place and the highly polarized polity. I think looking forward, once a new chief is appointed, the election takes place, maybe another window may present itself to take steps of that kind. Again, not a big bang, not complete normalization of relationship. Let's not set our sights too high, but some of those steps to recover some of the things which we had done earlier, which were lost in the recent years, trade, etc., or relationship at High Commissioner's level, and things of that kind, trade and travel.
Right. In conclusion, sir, and are we looking at an inflection point in Pakistan politics, or that would be too big a sort of?
It depends in which direction. We discussed whether it's the beginning of end of army's dominance, but inflection point in any other sense you have in mind, I'll certainly be happy
No,
to
this is what I
explore.
meant, sir. My inflection point. My perhaps chipping away at the power that the army has.
No, all this. If you see my book, there is a chapter called "The Silver Linings,"
Yes.
where I explain a few developments, which, as I described there also, and what I said earlier, are still not strong enough to overcome the challenge of entrenched interests. But India must not lose sight of those developments in crafting its policy, because those developments, those trends, those tendencies must grow for Pakistan to become a normal state with which we can then build a normal relationship. As I say in my book, it is not possible to normalize the relationship completely with a dysfunctional state, with a state which is not normal. And one of those factors in the silver linings mentioned by me is increasing questioning of the army. And that book, was given to the publisher much before Imran Khan's questioning started. But this has built upon that trend. So, as I said, don't overestimate it. Some are saying this is a democratic revolution, etc. But don't underestimate it either. If army, as it is clear, has been responsible for much of the problems within Pakistan, Pakistan being a troubled state, and for much of the trouble that Pakistan has caused in the region and for the world, then the questioning of its narrative has to be regarded as a positive trend and has to be regarded as something which must be taken note of, at least at the very least taken note of.
On that note, sir, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us on this conversation, Scroll, and for your insight.
Thank you very much.